This is a fictional alternate timeline story for entertainment, not real events, not news. You wake up, open your banking app, and the payment says one word: pending. The store down the street has limits on basics. A delivery that always arrives today suddenly says unknown. And the news keeps repeating the same phrase: new rules, effective immediately. Now imagine this isn't a local issue, it's global. Because in this timeline, Europe doesn't just talk with BRICS anymore. Europe locks in with an expanded BRICS group, often called BRICS Plus, including China and Russia. Not a handshake, not a summit photo, a machine, rules, courts, banks, standards, and one shared strategy that doesn't change every election cycle. Now here's the twist that makes this terrifying. The first shock isn't missiles, it's paperwork. Because the most powerful weapon in the modern world isn't a bomb, it's access. Who gets the fast lane? Who gets pending? Who gets slowed down without being officially blocked? And if that sounds boring, listen closely. Because in a world run by supply chains, the fast lane decides three things: what stays cheap, what arrives late, and what quietly disappears from shelves. Now let's make this human. Picture a resident in a normal apartment, normal job, normal life. They don't care about geopolitics. They care about groceries, rent, and whether next month feels safe. They open their phone again. A payment takes longer than usual. A refund takes days. A product they buy every week is suddenly missing. Not empty shelves, not panic, just friction. And friction is how the modern world starts bleeding without anyone noticing. Now picture a startup founder. They've been grinding for years. Their product is finally ready. Launch week is locked. We need to recheck compliance. Expect delays. One word can kill a launch: delays. In modern business, delays don't just cost money, they cost momentum. And momentum is oxygen. Now picture someone working in security and continuity planning. They live in checklists, procedures, and worst-case scenarios. They get a briefing, new coordination, new rules, higher alert. And the scary part isn't the rule. It's how fast the rule book is changing and how many people assume someone else is in control. So what happens next? Here is the chain reaction. Day 1. Markets do not crash, they hesitate. Because markets can price bad news, they cannot price uncertainty. Investors pause. Companies pause. Hiring pauses, and hiring pauses do not hurt today. They hurt later, quietly. Families start asking a question that sounds harmless but is not. Why does everything feel harder than it used to? Week 1. The Super-Bloc announces its foundation: unified trade rules, unified certification, unified procurement, one system that decides who qualifies as inside. This is the dopamine moment, because it sounds efficient, and efficiency feels like control. Inside the block, fewer barriers, faster customs, cheaper insurance, longer contracts, predictable pricing. Outside the block, more friction, more review, more pending, more verification. Not a ban, a slowdown. And slowdowns are how modern economies bleed. Week 2. Shipping routes start choosing sides. Not because ships become political, because insurance does. If the Super-Bloc guarantees specific corridors and ports, those routes become cheaper, safer, and more reliable. Companies reroute fast. And here is what that does emotionally. People do not panic because something is expensive. People panic because something becomes unpredictable. A resident notices it first in small ways. A product that used to be stable now fluctuates week to week. A familiar brand disappears for a month, then returns at a new price. A checkout line feels more tense than usual. The problem is not the shortage. It is the feeling that the system is slipping. Week 3. The Super-Bloc moves from trade into standards, telecom standards, cybersecurity compliance, cloud procurement rules, industrial protocols. And this is where the world starts splitting into two technology realities. Because once a block standard becomes the default inside half the planet, companies outside face a brutal choice. Adapt to the block standards or build a competing stack. Both cost money. Both cost time. And time is the one resource you can't import. The startup founder feels it instantly. The team isn't building the product anymore. They're migrating tools, rewriting integrations, recertifying components, chasing compliance paperwork like it's a second job. Here's the emotional punch. Burnout isn't loud, it's quiet, and it kills startups without anyone failing on paper. Week 4. Now the Super-Bloc does the thing that makes it truly dangerous. It bundles resources with industry, energy contracts, critical minerals, fertilizer, food supply, shipping insurance, industrial procurement. Inside the block, the pitch is stability. Outside the block, the reality becomes volatility. And volatility isn't just economics, it's mood. It changes how people vote, spend, hire, and sleep. A resident feels it as anxiety. A founder feels it as risk. A security planner feels it as pressure. Because when resources and industry coordinate at scale, security planners start using a new phrase. Economic stability is national stability. Now here's the part that sounds comforting at first. A stable Super-Bloc can reduce chaos. Long contracts can lower price spikes. Shared standards can speed infrastructure. Unified procurement can rebuild industry. That's the upside. And in this fictional timeline, it's real. But here comes the catch. Stability has a shadow. Leverage. Because if one block controls enough access, trade lanes, standards, resource, and industrial scale, it can reward and punish without ever raising its voice. No threats, no speeches, just terms. Your shipment is under review. Your certification is pending. Your transaction needs verification. The scariest part is you might not notice it until you are the one outside the gate. So what happens to the United States in this timeline? America is still powerful, but it stops being the default. It becomes a superpower in a world where Europe and BRICS Plus, including China and Russia, can function without it. The result isn't collapse. The result is adaptation, more reshoring, more tight alliances, more protection of critical tech, more competition in standards and payments. Because when the world becomes two machines, each machine tries to become more self-sufficient. And that is where the tension becomes dangerous. Not hatred, not villains. Systems competing to reduce dependence. And when dependence breaks, the world gets colder. Now here's the question that makes this timeline feel personal. If one system controls the fast lane, who controls your life? If you want episode 2, hit like and subscribe. And leave a comment with your answer, fast lane or slow lane. Because the next episode starts with one brutal question. Who gets access and who gets left behind? We continue in the next video.